Everybody, and welcome to the May session of the Paulding County Planning Commission. This time I would ask you, if you have an audible device, anything that makes a noise, please turn it off or to silence so it doesn't interrupt the proceedings. We're going to review the minutes from the previous session of this body. I know that there was some edits that were made. Just checking to make sure that everything, those edits were captured. Has anybody got comments or concerns about the minutes from the previous session? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Mr. Callahan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. Paulding County Planning Commission is a recommending body. We will hear applications presented to it, make a determination as to a recommendation to go to the governing authority where the jurisdiction pertains to it. All of those today are in Paulding County. 15 minutes will be granted to the applicant to present their application. They may use all of that time or conserve some for rebuttal, but from that 15 minutes also comes anybody else wishing to speak on behalf of the application. So that is 15 minutes cumulative time. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to an application or may have questions, comments, or concerns, 15 minutes of cumulative time is allotted to that as well. So if you find yourself at the lectern with a line behind you, please be mindful of those that are behind you wishing to speak. Or if there are enough of you, appoint one person to speak would be probably a better option. So we're going to dispense with the reading of how to participate in a public meeting, but if anybody has a question about that, there's copies on the back table of this room. Please take some for a bit of light reading. Mr. Robinson, would you care to go over any changes to the agenda?
Good afternoon. We do have two changes to the agenda today. Application 2025-03Z, City of Hiram. Application by Blue River Development is requesting to rezone approximately 50 acres, and this would be zoned to the new Hiram mixed-use district. That application has been forwarded to the June 24th Planning Commission meeting with some technicalities regarding traffic studies. 2025-08Z, City of Hiram, application by Trayton. They're also requesting to rezone 63.79 acres to the mixed-use Hiram zoning district. That application is also forwarded to the June 24th meeting due to some technicalities with the required transportation study. Other than that, I do not have any more announcements.
So if anybody who is wishing to present in front of this Planning Commission today, if you would please, when the application is called, the applicant would please step forward to the microphone, sign in, state your name, and then address all your comments to the chair, which is myself. Same thing would be anybody who follows after them, please, you would sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair, whether you're for or against an application. Mr. Robinson, if you'd like to introduce the first one.
Okay, first application is 2025-09Z, application by Russell W. Tibbetts requesting to rezone 28.05 acres from R2 Suburban Residential District to A1 Agricultural District and A1 Agricultural District to R1 Rural Residential District for the purpose of proposed development of 21-lot rural residential subdivision. I'm going to address that number here in a minute. Property is located in land lots 1103 and 1104, District 19, Section 3, located on the east side of Highway 101 South, and it's south of Buck Canyon Highway, also known as State Route 120. It's in Commission Post 2. Staff has recommended approval with 4 stipulations. We've had no calls or with concerns or opposition. The applicant originally was thinking 21 lots out there. The soil work didn't come back great, and we're probably looking at more of 11, 12, or 13 lots max.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
Applicant is present.
I thought so. Come on around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chairs. It's on the other side of the lectern there.
Mr. Chairman, also, the applicant had originally applied for a variance regarding the minimal public road frontage of 100 feet. That is not necessary at this time with the reduction in lots.
Okay.
So, good afternoon. I'm Russ Tibbetts. I live here in Dallas, and I am trying to get this from agricultural to R1. We have I started out with like he said, a 21 lot subdivision, but we're going to have to do a fewer lots. You know, we're not exactly sure how many lots, but it's definitely not going to be 21. So they'll be for sure over 1 acre. The final soil analysis and the final layout, you know, will determine exactly how many lots, but it will definitely be under the R1, you know, whatever. I think it's 1 acre lots. It'll most certainly be more than that. All the homes that I build are generally concrete siding, always $450,000 to $500,000 range ranches. Sometimes I build 2 stories, but not very often, mostly just stepless ranches. There will possibly be even some 2 acre lots. So pretty simple, you know, rezoning.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of questions for you. You are aware of the 4 stipulations recommended by the staff?
Yes, sir.
And
I know one of the stipulations was for a kiosk.
yeah, owner or developer agrees to provide a mail kiosk subject to U.S. Postal Service approval on its own parcel and will be placed so that parking is off-street and the facility is maintained by the homeowners association.
Okay, in that Temple area, sometimes the postmaster, they don't want, whatever the postmaster asks me to do, I would be more than happy to do. I'm just saying, I can't guarantee they'll want me to do that. Sometimes they just want mailboxes, you know, if the development is smaller than so many lots. As well, the Rockmart postmaster has asked me to do the same on smaller developments. No kiosks, just, so I have to go along with what the United States postmaster asks.
So should that stipulation should it be allowed if it's allowed by the U.S. Postal Service?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I can speak on this.
And yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Some of these stipulations, they were basically for a 21-unit subdivision. That 21-unit subdivision showed a public street. By the time DOT handed in their comments, recommended stipulations, the plan had changed. In that 11 lot or whatever, the less than 21 lots did not show a public street. It showed essentially private easement subdivision. So that those comments that are related to a public street do not apply to a public easement subdivision,
Okay.
which would be number 3 and number 4.
Okay.
So that takes, so the other comment, Chris, what was that, the other one there? Oh, yes, yes, okay. Okay, right. So, yes, when we change to private easements, that'll take away, I believe, 2 of those comments. So, yes, sir.
But that's predicated on there being less than 21 homes, right?
That was essentially with the scenario that this is a private easement subdivision.
Okay.
These
Private
are
easement
not
sub-
public streets, they're
Okay.
private access drives.
All right. Any other questions to the applicant?
Well, I was going to comment on that same thing. Mr. Jones answered it, you know, whether 3 and 4 are needed with it going to a private easement. You did a level 2 soils? Level 1?
Yes, sir, I did a level 2.
You've got a 3 coming?
A level 3,
Four?
as soon as
Okay.
the zoning is approved, I will get my soil scientist back out there, and he'll perform a level 3, and so it could change the layout some.
Yeah, I mean, if the soils get better and you go back to doing more lots, if you end up with it being a dedicated streets like you originally planned, then during plan review, you guys can pick up on the kiosk and the access and what 3 and 4 cover, correct? Under development regs.
Think on the number 3, horizontal traffic calming is not covered in the development regulations, so obviously that's not something we could enforce through the development regulations, and there's nothing in the development regulations about kiosks either, so that's why they're part of the stipulations, not.
Right, so,
That's the reason I was considering, and
Yeah.
if there are public rights-of-way.
Right, and then and
Public
what he's
streets.
proposing is not public right of way, so
Right.
so you wouldn't need them. And the postmaster, when we do these, I mean, I think you have one on Hutchison
yes,
where
sir.
you did mailboxes, and I did traditional mailboxes, but we've had
Yes.
to put in the kiosk, and the kiosk sometimes, the different postmasters, they're supposed to all follow USPS requirements, but some of the situations, traditional boxes work better, and that's what they want. And so until you talk to them, they'll tell you what they're going to want. And if you have to do a kiosk, you realize from doing them that you have to put it on its own parcel, and
Yes, sir, I have to have a
dedicate it
HOA
with your
and-
HOA and all
Yes, sir.
the same stuff we all run into. So these have been a challenge over the years to build these, and a lot of times the homeowners really don't like them.
That
They
is
would rather
correct.
have their
So-
own personal mailbox.
estate lot subdivisions is more special.
Yeah, absolutely.
but
But
if
you once you get your soils, you still, you still could increase your lot count.
I
But do you
could
still
increase
pro-
my lot count.
But you still propose it to be a private
I do
easement?
propose it to be private.
Okay.
Drives, no doubt about that, I feel certain.
And you've got 28 acres and you're proposing 11 lots, so you're averaging roughly 2 acres plus
Yes, yes,
a
sir.
lot. So even if you increase it by a couple, you're still going to be over the R1 requirement of 1 acre.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right. Are there any other questions to the applicant? Hearing none. Mr. Robinson, you said that we had fire chief here for any of the residential developments particularly. Did you want to have them comment if necessary, or just,
No, we just have Chief Brubaker available and
and Sheriff
Chief.
Henson too?
Bear, and or we have good sheriff here and marshals if there's any public safety.
And thank you all for
Concerns.
attending too. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Is that
guys.
all, Mr. Palmer? Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on behalf of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone here wanting to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion on application 2025-09-Z.
I make a motion to approve with stipulations 1 and 2, striking stipulations 3 and 4.
Have a motion to approve from Mr. Steele with 1 and 2 stipulations and striking the 3 and 4 steps.
Second.
Have a second from Mr. Leggett. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. And applicant will need to be present at the Paulding County Board of Commissioners meeting on, help me out here,
June 10th.
June 10th at
2 p.m.
2 p.m. That's when it will be heard by the legal authority jurisdiction. An applicant must be present. Mr. Robinson?
Okay, next application is 2025-02 LUP. Application by Michael Shannon Watson requesting a land use permit on 27.34 acres of R2 Suburban Residential District for the purpose, proposed use of an archery range event. Property is located in land lot lots 520 and 561, District 3, Section 3. It's on the south side of School Road, and it's east of Mount Moriah Road. The address is 1486 School Road. It's in Commission Post 4. The applicant will be utilizing, as part of the LUP, 3 acres out of the 27. Staff has recommended approval with 7 stipulations. There was 2 that was inadvertently left off. Those are number 6, owner applicant agrees access to be improved and an updated driveway permit obtained from Paulding DOT. And number 7, owner applicant agrees access to the development shall be determined during the plan review process. We've had no calls with concerns or opposition on this one, and the applicant is present.
Okay, would you repeat the 6th stipulation one more time?
Number 6,
Yes.
owner applicant agrees access to be improved and an updated driveway permit obtained from Paulding DOT.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Is the applicant present? Please come around, sign in, state your name, and address your comments to the chair.
Name is Shannon Watson. I'm here today to ask for the special land use permit to open up an outdoor archery range. The range will consist of probably one event a month. There will be basically 2 stations. The way the property is laid out, it is pretty much all your shots will be going downhill into the valley. So as far as safety, no arrows should be going anywhere but straight down. I've laid it out to where plenty of parking up front. I already have a barn up there for a structure anyway. So there'll be plenty of parking there. I will have, a porta potty up there for the events. Far as, there's nowhere to shoot in Paulding County. Anybody that wants to learn archery or shoots archery or hunts or anything, there's nowhere to shoot. I myself shoot a lot, so, I have 27 acres. I have my own targets already set up, so I thought, why not see, if we could make this a go. None of my neighbors, I've talked to all of them, they are all fine with it. I guess the end goal is I would love to get with 4-H and see if, I understand they only have one place to practice now. I would love to offer that, to help out 4-H if they need a place to practice. Most certainly they could come. Just trying to get a different avenue for, for people that are interested in archery, whether you're old, young, kids, just a place to go. Like I said, because there's nowhere even close that I know of that you can go shoot.
Okay.
That's it.
Are you familiar with the 7 stipulations recommended by staff?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're agreeable with those?
Yes, sir.
And have you had any kind of a function like this before? Have you been over something like this before? I'm just curious.
No, I've attended
Okay.
plenty of them. Because it's basically a 3D archery shoot. You have like 20 targets. You pay, you go shoot, you keep score,
Okay.
So there's, the closest one is Douglasville, and then the next closest one is in Rome. So there's nowhere, unless you want to drive, there's nowhere really for anybody else to go.
And you're also aware that a land use permit is for a period of 2 years, that it would be your responsibility to keep track of that and renew it prior to expiration before it does?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions from the planning commission?
Yeah, what's the length of are you having lanes or is it just,
It's It's,
Shooting stations.
so basically I have 2 stations, 10 targets at both stations. So you have 1 lane, 1 shooter at a time. You shoot all 10, and then you move to the next station. Next guy comes to the first station, you just keep moving. And you can keep score. You don't have to keep score. It's just a place to, kind of practice your skill.
And what's the length?
The longest right now is 40 yards. And like I said, all of them, the backstop is pretty much the way, like I said, the way the land lays, it's all ridges and valleys, so the backstop is the ridge. We shoot down in the valley, so even if you miss the target, it's going down and not up.
Any other questions?
Stipulation 5 states that you agree not to provide any alcoholic beverages. Do you have any concerns about participants bringing alcoholic beverages?
No, sir. That'll be addressed when they show up. I mean, because it's my own personal property. I don't, no need for alcoholic beverages when we're on my property, plus, with a bow in your hand too. So
And again, this is just more for personal edification. You said that you've talked to all of your neighbors. There's nobody that objects to you having a function like this. Is there any way that you would be notifying your neighbors that, you have an event going on, or you have people who will be in operation doing that?
I wouldn't think so unless they.
But are you so far away from the neighbors' boundaries that doesn't
Yes,
present an issue?
yes, sir. When we had it zoned, when we had it, surveyed out, I made sure to get right in the middle. So I'm nowhere, we're not shooting towards any of my neighbors. It's all right in the middle of my own property.
All right. Any other questions?
Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
if you had classes, what would be the time limits?
Be the time.
Time.
So I really want to do like Saturdays from like 12 to 6, give people time to get home from ball or whatever, just once a month.
Will you teach children?
I will eventually. To start off with, probably not. But that's when I would reach out to 4-H. If 4-H wanted, to come practice, then yes, I would be all about, bring your kid. If you don't have a bow, I'll get bows as they can use, anything, just to get them in the sport, get them off the couch and get them doing something.
I'm an old person. Will you teach me?
Absolutely. If you can pull it back, I'll teach you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
That's it.
Yes. Is there anybody else here that wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application or may have questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion on application 2025-02-LUP.
I make a motion to approve the 7 listed stipulations, or the 5 listed stipulations, plus the other 2 stipulations that Mr. Robertson added.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Aston with the 7 stipulations that have been presented to us today. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. This will be forwarded to the Board of Commissioners meeting I mentioned earlier. At 2 o'clock, you'll need to be there for it to be considered by them. I will now go back to you, Mr. Robinson, if you want to
Okay.
introduce the next one.
Yes, sir. This is, I would call Phase 2. It's a zoning ordinance text amendment. This is our required public hearing. The Paulding County Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners will consider zoning ordinance text amendments to Title I Administration, Chapter 110 Definitions, Section 11040 General Definitions, Title II Zoning, Chapter 210 Base Districts, Chapter 230 Supplemental Use Standards, Chapter 240 Standards Applying to All Districts, Chapter 60 Off-Street Parking Standards, Section 260-20 Required Spaces, Chapter 280, Planning Commission, and Appendix Section 3.0, List of Amendments of the Unified Development Ordinance for Paulding County, Georgia.
Thank you, Chris. Is this all? I'm just not tall enough. Good afternoon, Planning Commission members. We have arrived at the 10th edition of the Unified Development Ordinance, and I'll just like to go over real quick what the changes in what will be Ordinance 25-05 entail. First thing we are recommending to change is adding several definitions. I believe if you recall a couple months ago, we had someone seeking a CBD store. During Chris's research for that, we realized that CBD stores fall under a miscellaneous retail category that also includes some things that maybe don't belong in all of our zoning districts. And we especially wanted to give a definition for the CBD oil retailers. Chris also, we've had some, maybe not controversy, but questions about when people want to do flex buildings. They might have a retail up front, and they might do a lot of online business, so they have a warehouse. So we have a definition for flex buildings. We also had a meeting with environmental health, and we had some folks from the fire department, planning and zoning, dealing with the people who have mobile food trucks as a home occupation. So those are the three things that we are defining. Moving on, last month we did changes to the NPR and R55 zoning district, and during those discussions, with meeting with a lot of different people relating to stormwater, separation between buildings, we thought for all of our zoning districts that a minimum 12-foot side yard setback it is important. So this change is increasing R3 from 10 feet to 12 feet and increasing the open space residential development district from 8 feet to 12 feet. And I will note that we don't have anything currently zoned OSRD. You have had no takers on that zoning district. Moving on to the miscellaneous retail, doing a few changes in the neighborhood business zoning district. We are, anything that's listed as a miscellaneous store retailer is a permitted use except for the CBD oil retailers, cemetery, memorial dealers, monuments, fireworks shops, and hot tub stores and swimming pool. We did not believe that those uses belonged in neighborhood business. Same for B1 general business, excluding everything except for the fireworks shops, and adding the CBD oil retailers as a special use permit. So if anybody wanted to operate a CBD store, it would require a special use permit. B1 and Plans Shopping Center have the same uses, so we're recommending the same changes for Planned Shopping Center. Moving on to B2, this is where the first zoning district where we add in the flex buildings, and in this case, all the miscellaneous retail uses except for the CBD oil retailers, which moves to a special use permit. And we propose to add the flex building to e-commerce retail. I think that's really the perfect home for it. The old service merchandise kind of model, as well as I1 light industrial. Moving to the supplemental use standards, after we wanted to recommend some changes to the business vehicle, especially related to the food truck. Want to switch from a vehicle limited in size to carrying 1 ton capacity, moving to a gross vehicle weight rating of less than 16,000 pounds. I believe included in your packet was kind of a nice demonstration of what those vehicles, that would limit someone to what is a typical food truck or a landscape truck. And having the gross vehicle weight rating, we could ask you to bring your vehicle and go out and check the inside door and check what that rating is. Also, with the mobile food vending, there are some requirements that they should get from the Office of Environmental Health, so we just wanted to put those in the special exceptions for that. You have to have separate sinks, might require a permit for that. There's just some requirements that the health department would like to see. And we would be adding the CBD oil retailers to the list of special use permits. Section 24-10, this would be updating the dimensional requirements of all the zoning districts to show the 12-foot side yard setbacks for R3 and OSRD. We would be adding parking space requirements for CBD oil retailers and flex buildings. And we've had some observations in planning and zoning that perhaps previously in our previous zoning ordinance, we did not have a parking requirement for amenity areas. And when we did it, it was 2 spaces for each 10 dwelling units, and we're starting to think that's a little too many. That may be 2 spaces for every 20 dwelling units. So reduce that. Hopefully people can get out and get some exercise as they walk to the swimming pool. Next is a change to section 280-100, probably getting you guys a little more work as members of the Planning Commission. This section is spelling out if someone has changed a site plan or you might have specified with the zoning stipulation that they can only do a flex building. And maybe they come in and they want to do a clothing store. But if that stipulation said you can only do a flex building and you don't want to do that, it's a pretty bad example. But where we really see some changes is instead of saying significant changes, changing it to major changes, and for both residential and non-residential, specifying what would trigger that change. Right now, it was said if a plan deviates significantly, turns out what I think is significant is very different than what a lot of the applicants think is significant. So this is where, and I think George and DOT, he helped with some of these requirements. So in residential, if you delete or alter a stipulation of approval of the original site plan, including architectural elevations, if you came to us with some beautiful, gorgeous architectural elevations, and then when it came time to pull permits, they are not similar at all, we would send them back to the Planning Commission for another look. A change in proposed housing type. We don't allow a lot of different housing types, but in R55, in some old additions, there are some housing types that you could change from. You could have had a retirement community, and you might want to go to single-family detached or vice versa. So also look to increase by the number of lots by 550 or 10%, whichever is less. Increase the density by 10% or more, relocation of active amenities to a different location, increase in traffic, which would require a traffic impact analysis set forth in section 280-20.03B14A, or as specified by the director. If something that we haven't thought of comes out that we do feel is a major change, then it would come back to you. Very similar for non-residential. We did add deletes or alters a stipulation, change in proposed use from a specifically approved use, change in traffic. We also added a change in use that generates an additional 20% in trip generation of vehicles or more in any peak hour. As kind of an example, a fast casual restaurant generates, it's about 12.58 trips. But a fast food restaurant generates about 30. We think that that's pretty significant and can have a pretty significant impact on the roads that might be located off of, and an increase of height to a building of 2 stories or more. Just sort of cleaned up 280-103 to make it clear that this goes back before the Planning Commission and goes through the public hearing process. And our last change today, when we initially did the UDO, we set a performance time frame for special use permits for 12 months. And just looking at that, we didn't think that was long enough, so we recommend changing it to 3 years, which is what we have in place for a rezoning application. If a rezoning application, if no action is taken in 3 years, the Planning Commission, we would notify applicants, but the county would have the right to revert that back to the previous zoning district. So we thought if 3 years was good for that, 3 years would be good for a special use permit. And that is the last change for addition number 10, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Well, I think making parking more competitive at subdivision amenities will be interesting to see. So, Also, is there any concern about, in the previous sections where number 7 or the last item is listed as specified by the director, that having that discretion might open the door for more argument?
I'm happy to take that out. I racked my brain trying to come up with as many options as I could. The only other jurisdiction that had something like this was Forsyth County, and I borrowed this from them.
Do you have an example of something that might be considered? I mean, I'm just curious because I see it day to day too, where there's discretion allowed. I mean, it really just generates arguments, in my opinion.
I'm happy to to delete those too.
And these are literally amendments. Somebody comes through zoning, and then they show up at plan review.
Yeah.
And you guys see this as a change. So it could kick it back. Can you scroll up the page a little bit?
Yeah.
Or I can see the residential ones. I mean, changing housing type. I mean, I get it with the R55, the two different types, but when you get into a basic residential R2 or R1 or any of the other larger lots, I mean, you're not specifically talking difference between two-story dwellings, single-story dwellings, ranches, slabs, basements. You're not talking about that type of housing.
No.
Okay.
No, we're talking, and right now, R55 is the only one, and we have 5 editions of R55 to add to the confusion. We do have a list of what was rezoned with what, but that was just to try to help us sort of catch, we're probably going to do a little minor edit, and for some of the residential zoning districts, especially for R55, put 5th edition in the text so that it helps us to know which one we're looking at.
Does 3 and 4 contradict each other? Increase the number by 50 or 10%, whichever less, and then the next is increased density by 10% or more? Am I reading that wrong? Wouldn't 3 cover 4?
It probably would. We could say 50 lots or
Right.
10%. And
Yeah, when you read it, you
because
said,
if you increase,
when you read it, you said 552. We knew you meant 50, we saw it.
50.
But I think you could scratch 4 and cover that with 3. I think that's the way I understand it. Or merge those together.
Yeah. I think if you, because the increase by 50 lots, because that's would trigger the traffic impact analysis. But you have a small development that maybe came in, not to use our example here, but what if he found out his soils were great and he wanted to increase,
Right. Well, you have 50 lots. He didn't meet that, but he would meet 10% if he only added 2 or 3.
But I don't have a problem. I think that would take in 4, and I think just to make it clear, say 50
I think your
lots.
R1s and your A1s and your R2s are different in that category than your higher density stuff.
Yeah.
Your numbers can increase. And then can you scroll down to the non-residential for a second? So one that stuck out was talking about, and George may chime in on this, number 3, increased traffic, which will require traffic impact. Until you do the traffic impact, are you just going off of what the director, what you guys feel like would be an increase?
I think the way it's worded is, the way I interpret it is that you basically meet the threshold of requiring a traffic impact study, like it's more than 50 residential units. So
Okay.
you trip those thresholds with this increase.
But you didn't have it on the zoning, so if you had somebody come in with 44 lots on the zoning and they show up with 51,
Right.
then you go back to it.
And you have to remember the traffic impact analysis, that adoption is recent.
Well, and some of those things you wouldn't know until you did the traffic study. What was another one I saw? Like the change in the use that generates additional 20. I mean, unless we just assume it as engineers, it's going to go up. But until you do that study, you really don't know.
Again, I think some of it you would have to look at what the land use, the IT land usage, that would be kind of a quick check to notice that it's 20% more. You don't necessarily have to do the whole traffic study, but you look
Okay.
at the ITE.
Like the restaurant example I used. I was sort of surprised at how much more traffic a fast food with a drive-through generates than a fast casual.
But they both fall under the same zoning. So if I came in and wanted to zone for a restaurant at an intersection in the county, and I sell it to a sit-down Mexican restaurant versus sell it to McDonald's.
It's a significant trip generation difference. That,
If you would
first of all,
like,
I don't think we're open to the public
Yeah.
yet, so
yeah, you're
you'll,
gonna have to hold on.
you'll get a second. Put my development waiver chairperson hat on, I apologize.
Well, I'll ask the question for him. I know where he's asking, in the development regs, do we address that? If I come in with a parcel that is zoned B2, B1, and I bring in a certain type, doesn't it give you that authority in your development regs to look at it?
It doesn't give the authority to send it back to the planning commission. That's what we're trying to
when we-
take into consideration, like on meeting days like this, when a developer comes in and presents to you guys and ostensibly the public selling them, we're gonna do this. And then by the time they turn it in and trigger a development regulation review, it has completely changed. And
I
you
know,
would not
right?
believe the calls we get that they said they were gonna do X and they're doing Y.
I know, I get hung
So
up.
this is to get this back before the public.
And you
So
and-
that it's transparent and people know what's coming.
And you and I have had the discussions before about, zoning. I mean, if you have B1 and it covers a great number of different types of use.
Right. And that's why the first stipulation, Chris sometimes says as a recommendation, you're asking for X, you can do X. Not everything that's listed in B1 or B2.
Should we have additional zonings?
Zoning categories?
Yeah. Should we have more?
No. I don't think so.
All right, I got one more question back to the setbacks. So earlier you went from 8 to 12 and 10 to 12. Mm-hmm. And one of the comments made was with staff, is it an issue over like access for like DOT with storm drains and with water system with, mains that are going between houses?
That's part of it, and especially with some of the narrow, I know our stormwater division has seen with some of the smaller side yard setbacks, you just can't get grass to grow.
Well, we had
It doesn't.
issues. I mean, I know Mr. Wooten and Mr. Jones would agree that sometimes getting equipment between these houses to work is impossible.
That's part of it, and that's
But
what the 12 feet.
you'll need to increase those easements too. So
Right.
your easements are typically only 20 feet. So if you only have the 20 feet to work, you really don't have the right to go in that additional 2 feet.
What I'll say is the easements are, in theory, they're set based on the depth of the pipe also, a minimum 20 feet, but if the pipe is deeper, it has to be a wider easement. So
right.
again, all those things are taken into consideration, but as you know, it's tough to get dig in 20 feet, and like I said, you may need a trench box, you need places to put the material you're digging
Sure.
out, so it's
My
essentially,
suggestion there is just to increase the
it's an
easements too.
ergonomics.
If you're going to increase the setback, increase the easement through there when there are easements. Then you guys both can use that. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. That's all I had.
Any other questions to the director?
Okay. Let's discuss what we talked about last month as far as alarms. I've been talking to several folks, and they agree with me on especially the R55. If you've got a sprinkler in the carport, it'd be very cheap and very easy to just run a sprinkler off the kitchen in the area of where the feed from the kitchen faucet is, to have a sprinkler in the kitchen near the stove. And I'd like to make sure that that's in the R55. And also, we were discussing I was discussing the bell type alarms and talking to several of them, and especially one of them that's a friend that's a retired firefighter. His wife is deaf, and we had a long discussion. We talked over an hour about it, and he'd like to see that changed to the strobe type smoke detectors throughout in every room of the house, instead of having just one in the hallway, something like that. Somebody's completely deaf. That's their only way of knowing that there's something wrong, that there would be a fire. And so I'd like to change that to have the strobe light, strobe type fire detectors in the houses, in each room of an R55.
We did not advertise any changes to R55, so
Oh,
we will
yeah.
take that one into consideration in our next text amendment. We were trying to be more detailed in our advertisements, and
But we discussed that last month.
We did.
And I wanted, you know, to make that change of what I want to see in that category the next time we make a change.
certainly.
And it really needs to be immediately, as many as we're having, you know, in the county. Can make a huge difference in the life, you know, of the residents.
If we go back to 280-110.04, that's the special use permit performance. Changing that from 12 months to 3 years, I'm just curious, you said 12 months is too short. But, you know, so it would be more reasonable to have a longer period of time for someone to be able to take action on an SUP. But what was the decision, what was behind the decision for 3 years?
Because we did 3 years for a rezoning,
Okay, just
Just to keep
to
them the
marry
same.
those together.
to keep them the same, so
Consistent.
it's easy to remember.
Okay.
So it's selfishly for staff, so we're not like, which one's 2, which one's 3, so we know
And
they're
it's-
both 3. And some things, especially with I mean, I don't know how many projects that have come in and been rezoned have gotten even have even gotten started within a year.
Okay.
So it was simply to match what we had in place. Our previous zoning ordinance didn't have the reversion clause, and it didn't have the
Right.
performance on a special use permit.
Yeah, which I think is a great innovation to the UDO. I wasn't sure, you may have mentioned it too when you were presenting, but 12 to 36 months, I was just curious as to the metric for that. But that's fine.
Just to match what we said for rezonings.
Okay. Are there any other questions to the director? Thank you very much. So at this time, I will open the floor to public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on the subject at hand, would please come to the lectern, sign in, state your name, and then address your comments to the chair. We would take the comments and then possibly bring the director back up for discussion on those points if we need to. Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, we're done with the public comments portion of it. So at this point then, we'll move into consideration for a motion on the zoning ordinance text amendment as presented. Does anybody want to?
Well, I have a quick question on the one that we talked about, 3 and 4. I mean, can we combine those, or do you want to work on,
It's fine to just delete 4.
delete 4?
I think if you do 50 lots or 10%.
Yeah. I don't have them in written form right here, so can you scroll back down? I don't know if there's a page missing in mine.
Put them all on one page. Well, I can't.
So if anybody's going to make a motion, that's just my thought.
Well, there was that. There's also the discussion of number 7 under A
Striking
and B.
numbers, the specified by the director.
I mean, me sitting here doing what I do, it would be my recommendation not to open that door for argument. You know, the more case-specific you can be, a lot surer ground you're standing on when you are having those discussions.
No problem with that at all. That's why we did this, was to bring clarity.
Absolutely.
And not more questions.
All right, can you scroll up the page so I can see both? All right, I'll make a motion to approve with the changes to 280-100.02A, striking number 4
Number 7.
and striking number 7.
And B, striking number 7.
And B, under non-residential, striking number 7.
All right. So I have a motion from Mr. Steele for approval of the changes to the UDO, listing striking under section 280-110.02, subparagraph or subparagraph 4 and 7, and then under B, 7. Did I capture that all right?
You did.
Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Leggett. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1. I want to thank everybody for their attendance. Again, those that are really busy in their schedules. Sheriff Henson, want to thank you for your attendance too, and Chief Brubaker. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Callahan, second by Ms. Fitzgerald. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0 and 1.